So my number one is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles from 1987, directed by John Hughes, starring Steve Martin, John Candy. Quick log line, if anybody has not seen this movie, a Chicago advertising man must struggle to travel home from New York for Thanksgiving with a lovable oaf of a shower curtain ring salesman and his only companion. So, I mean, a lot has been said about this movie. This is sort of, in the circles of the holiday movies that everybody loves. And well, not everybody. I know people who don't like this movie, and I can understand why.
Really?
Yes.
Shocking.
For some reasons.
Okay.
But of course, it's about the chaos and of the holidays, the airports and the delays and all of those things. But to me, this movie is not on my list for those reasons. To me, this movie is on my list because of the fact that the holidays are about kindness to families as well as found families, people who are not like you, who you might detest. And it is about opening your hearts, learning something from them, sharing something with them. The theme that we've been sort of sprinkling all along. I think this movie sort of really hits it. And it is obviously one of the all-time funny movies with two brilliant performances at the center of it. But I think why this movie, at least to me, kind of holds the test of time and stands tall, it is because of John Candy. I think it's him, his acting, but also just his persona, whether real or not. He's sort of playing somebody who's sweet, somebody who's annoying, but at the same time, there is sort of this layer of sadness behind this person, a deep loneliness, all at the same time. And that is why you click and lock in with him. Otherwise, the gag between, John Candy does another goofy, silly thing that annoys Steve Martin will get old very quickly.
Right.
I don't think we will make it past the planes. I won't make it past the planes. That would be the end of it for me. But I think it is about John Candy's performance that there's something so sweet and sad about this person, and which of course is revealed as the movie goes on, and that's what keeps you locked in. Obviously, Steve Martin is the best straight man who's irritated. There's nobody better than him who plays that, and this might be probably the pinnacle of that persona of his. And you as an audience member just revel in that. And then John Hughes, I was listening to the Rewatchables and they did an episode on this, and I think they said it really well that I didn't actually know, they revealed on the movie that there's like a whole 40-minute kind of B-roll or whatever of things that didn't make it in the movie that had a lot more detail and such. And it explains things perhaps a little bit better, but I think it shows so much restraint on John Hughes's part to make this movie its best version. And I think there's more said in those unanswered questions. We don't need to know that the wife is suspecting the husband as to why he's in some other place. Like, that is not the part of the movie. We do not need to go there. Or we do not need to know that the person who robs their wallets at the hotel was the pizza delivery person. We don't need to know any of this stuff. So I think that was really fun to hear. But yeah, it's really funny. It's really sweet. And then I have to mention the final scene, when he brings him back home, meets the family, the kids, the wife is coming down the stairs, there's food laid out. It gets me every single time, because I think that's where John Candy's loneliness and sadness sort of meets the warmth of this family. And, and it's somehow there's sort of this equal meeting between the two, because so far Steve Martin's character has been the one who's been on the receiving end, and who's also been acting out and being mean to John Candy throughout the movie.
Right.
And this is that one moment where he gets to open his heart and welcome somebody and give actual joy to somebody. And there is just so much of great, without saying anything, the look on John Candy's face that, you know what, this friendship is now going to live for a whole life.
Right.
That look on his face is his return to him, which we don't know the backstory of Steve Martin's character, but I don't think he has many friends either. I don't think he does. Like, he is there's probably a whole other movie about him. This picture perfect sort of family that we're seeing in the movie is more from perhaps the eyes of John Candy's character. Even though he hasn't met this family, that's his aspiration of what
Right.
holidays and family life could be. I don't think that's what's actually happening in reality. And in some ways, by Steve Martin welcoming John Candy to his holiday festivities at Thanksgiving, it sort of completes and really underlines the meaning of family and Thanksgiving and hence the holidays. So
Mhm.
yeah, but you don't have to read into any of this deeper meaning. You can just enjoy the ride, laugh out loud moments across the board. I love this movie. So that's my number one, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah, this movie is fantastic. I'm surprised there are people who don't take to it. That was a surprise to hear you say that at the beginning. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that work really well in this movie. I mean, you mentioned obviously John Hughes, just one of his best, and then the editing too.
Yeah.
Hirsch, I think is the guy's last. He also edited Star Wars, big time,
Yes.
like one of the great editors. Just did a fantastic job with this, and those extra scenes that were rumored for a really long time and that finally got released recently are a testament to that. But I really do think this movie is so special because of Candy and Martin, especially Candy. I do think this is his best performance in any film.
It's his best.
He is just a fantastic actor and just has such a great persona. But I don't think anyone else could have pulled this off.
No.
Where that one scene in the hotel room when Martin really calls him out for that first time and kind of yells at him, and then John Candy has that like, you hurt me, like I might be annoying, and but I
like who I
am. I like who I am. Right, I'm an annoying guy, but I like who I am, and that hurt, and that scene is just incredible. By how, and I don't think anyone else could have delivered that.
No.
But John Candy, because yeah, if I was Steve Martin, he would annoy the hell out of me too.
Right.
He's not like he's a nice guy, but can be grating. But because he has that pure heart, and he's just an honest with himself and with the world, I think that makes him redeemable in his annoyance. And Martin too, because that role you could very easily come off as a total jerk.
Right.
And be like, oh my God, why are you so mean to this guy? Like, yeah, he's annoying, but why are you so mean? And I think Steve Martin's persona too, he's very good at being like this, like put upon everyman, where you kind of relate to this guy because it's like, yeah, but like if I was in that situation, I kind of would act the same way because it's just got that relatability. And I think that's why, as an audience member, you're not like on anyone's side. You're like, oh, it's a buddy movie, right? So you want to, you're into both those guys.
Your allegiances shift throughout the movie, and
exactly.
It's far from one note. Bringing back the phrase, like it's actually very complex.
Yes, it totally is, and I think that's why this movie does stand the test of time so much, because these characters feel real.
Yeah.
As silly as some of these circumstances are, like them driving a car that totally got burned to shreds that probably wouldn't actually, actually drive. But you believe that these people are real, even if the situations might be exaggerated.
The thing I was saying earlier, right? Like my quip with Crump is, I mean, I should not be comparing these two.
Yeah, they're different.
For the heck of it, know, like if this movie was not the way it's made and how complex it is, by the time that car scene happens, I would be like, oh my gosh, of course.
Right.
This is going wrong, of course. And I would be so angry at the movie. And maybe the people who don't like the movie, maybe that's if they haven't really sat with the movie properly, I can see that being a bit annoying. That
like it just gets too much.
Exactly. But I don't think that is the case with this movie at all because of their performances and how they play off of each other.
Yeah, and the situations are exaggerated, but they're things that are very relatable too.
True.
Like the humor of missing your plane and then trying to get rental cars and the headaches with hotels, and like this is all stuff that is very relatable, and it's heightened a little bit. So there is some. I mean, I think that's what John Hughes does really well in all of his films, honestly. Like even the ones that are a little bit more fantastical, like we covered Ferris Bueller's Day Off on our summer episode, so folks can go listen to that if they want to hear our thoughts on that film. But that movie is very fantastical elements to it, but there is those characters feel real as heightened as they are, and I think he also does the same thing with Candy's role and Steve Martin's as well. So yeah, I think This movie is a classic. It's fantastic. One of the best, buddy films and holiday films too. Because even though it is over Thanksgiving, I think it does, to your point, represent all these sort of end of the year holiday, Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving, and they all kind of share a common thread of a theme to them.
Totally. One last thing, watching this movie this time, it just made me think of that weirdly, this movie in the current day landscape is also kind of political. Like, if this movie was made today, John Candy's character would probably be represented, or there would be tones of, oh, you're from maybe a red state, or
right.
or Steve Martin is sort of your classic sort of coastal person, and I'm sort of glad that this movie, obviously it was made in a different time, so it doesn't even delve into any of that. But if you want to engage with the movie in that way, you can sort of read into it. And once again, the message I was sort of highlighting up top is that that's okay. You can be very different from each other. You can be annoying and grating on each other, but there is still a way to, meet each other with kindness. And I think that's what the movie underlines. And to your point, like, because you see these people as real human beings, suddenly all these other trappings of your associations, your job, all of that start to fall away as the movie goes along. So I thought that was kind of amazing. It feels very topical in that sense.
It does. And I think in terms of reading like political messages into the film, which I do think there are some threads to that. I was looking at it in this last reflection. These things, for some reason, were kind of coming out at me a little bit more. It was interesting seeing Steve Martin's character, who is this, kind of yuppie, successful financially. He's in the suit, like he's like this business guy. And throughout the film, every time he runs into a problem, he just tries to buy his way out of it.
Right.
And never works. Candy is someone who, he's not
engages with people.
Exactly. He uses kindness to get everything that they get in this film and to move them closer and closer to their destination, which is, Chicago with Martin's family. It's, I know this guy. Oh, I sold him some things. He remembers me. So it's his kindness that actually succeeds on every issue that they run into. Whereas
even
Martin,
though he's a con artist in many ways.
Okay, fine. I guess you're right. He is. He tries to sell the women those shower curtains as like expensive earrings.
Montage.
That is a great scene. I think it's just a testament to, you can't buy your way out of situations very easily. And then at the end of the day, it is just being a nice person and being an open soul and having friends and connections is what got them to Chicago. It was not Steve Martin and his credit card. So that was sort of like the political message of this movie that I read, is like, you can't buy your way to what you want. It's just about kindness and being kind, like Candy was. But I
agree.
Fantastic film. I think
good.
This one is great. Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.